What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. It's Darbu, and today we're gonna dive into the Brewmaster Monk and the War Within beta. And whether you're new to Brewmaster Monk or you're coming back into the game, or maybe a seasoned vet, you just want to watch it, I'm kind of going to do a quick overview guide that kind of goes over everything you need to know about this tank. And I'm going to kind of focus in on the core mechanics, some I guess defenses and offensive strategies, and maybe some tips overall for the class. Now, the reason why I am going to be doing this is because I see so many videos and I hear so many people talking about that Brewmaster is one of the hardest tanks to play in the game. And I think that's simply not true. It has a little bit more features and a little bit more things you have to watch out for. And I think the biggest one that people are intimidated by is when they learn about stagger and what stagger does, and they panic and they freak out because they're like, oh shit, how do I manage stagger? That seems complicated. It really isn't. I think if you know how to play Blood DK, you're gonna be able to pick up Brewmaster Monk with no problem. I think Blood DK is probably the hardest tank to learn in the game, honestly. I think it's way more difficult than Brew. So yeah, we're gonna go over a few of those things over here, and the whole point of this video is to kind of open it out to those guys that never played Brewmaster before because they have fear of it, or they're kind of picking up the game again. So this is mostly tailored towards new people. And so the first thing I want to talk about is what actually makes Brewmaster unique. Now, Brewmaster focuses on, damage mitigation, mostly through stagger and self-healing. And so stagger is the Brewmaster's primary damage mitigation mechanic. Now, you'll see at the bottom of your player portrait, that's where your stagger meter is going to be. Now, what Stammer does is, instead of you taking all of the damage at once, it allows you to take a portion of the damage immediately and you spread the rest over about 10 seconds. Now, this makes your incoming damage a lot more manageable and predictable and easier to maintain. Now, Brew isn't as tanky as most of the other tanks, but it does matter. Now, there's three types of stagger levels. There's light stagger, moderate stagger, and heavy stagger, and it's pretty self-explanatory in how exactly those three work. Now, you can clear your stagger anytime with purifying brew, which removes a percentage of the stagger damage, and it's one of your core abilities here. So whenever your stagger gets low, I usually like to play with half to a quarter of stagger, because having stagger also gives you a slight buff. So you have purifying brew, you get 2 charges of that, and you can do that to clear 60% of your damage, and you heal also for the amount of damage that you stagger. So you got a lot of self-healing on there, and purifying brew and stagger is going to be your bread and butter, right? And kind of go into the key abilities of Brewmaster. There's going to be a few ones that are your bread and butter key abilities. Now, you're going to have Keg Smash, which is your big damage button. It's your primary resource generator, and it deals huge amount of damage, right? And you have Breath of Fire, which is an AoE, and it applies a damage reduction debuff onto enemies. You have Blackout Kick, and that is used to maintain Shuffle, which is essential for reducing your damage through stagger as well. You have Tiger Palm, and you also have your Rising Sun Kick. Now, the beautiful thing with the War Within has reduced the button bloat dramatically, so you don't even have to worry about a lot of these extra abilities. You're only going to be mostly playing with Blackout Kick, Tiger Palm, Rising Sun Kick, Keg Smash, Breath of Fire, and then of course your Purifying Brew, and then a couple other defenses. Now, the next thing I want to cover is your defensives and your offensive cooldowns. Now, you're going to have Fortifying Brew, and what Fortifying Brew does is increases your health, reduces your damage taken, and it strengthens your stagger effect. And you want to use this during high damage situations to ensure your survival. It's your oh shit button, right? You use that, and you're like, oh fuck, I'm about to die, and you're panicking. It's your panic button. You have your Celestial Brew, and what that's going to do is provide a significant absorb shield, and you use that with Purifying Brew to kind of maximize the effectiveness there, right? And You also have an Nozal. I don't know how to say that, and I never will know how to say that. But I don't use that in this build because it's an extra button. I don't use it. Instead, what I use is Black Ox Brew. Now, Black Ox Brew, I recommend you using that whether you're new or getting into BrewMaster Monk or you're veteran. I like Black Ox Brew more than Bob and Weave, and the reason for that is because it refills your energy when you're running low. It also resets the cooldowns of your Celestial Brew, and it also gives you more of your Purifying Brew charges. So if you're in a oh shit situation, you're running low on health, you need a shield, you need a heal, you need to get rid of stagger, you press that, and then you go ahead and you have Purifying Brew and Celestial Brew to use. Now, when it comes to your damage buffs, for your offensive cooldowns, you only have two. You have Weapons of Order, and what that does is increases your mastery, boosting both your offense and defense. The best way to use this is whenever you're going to be going into a pool, you want to do fat damage, so you will do a Weapons of Order. If you're running Master of Harmony, which I recommend you run Masters of Harmony, you'll pop Celestial, right, and you get a little bit of a damage buff, and you just start going to town. And you have Exploding Keg, and that deals massive amount of AoE damage, and it's just what it does is you throw it out there. It's a little, I like to do that too, like while I'm just pumping like crazy. It's a minute cooldown, so it's a fat CD. You throw it out there, it deals like a bunch of damage, and also causes your other damage to deal more fire damage. It makes it do more damage. So for the next 3 seconds, so you want to, when you pop your cooldowns, pop your Weapons of Order, you pop your Celestial Brew if you're running Master of Harmony, and then you go ahead and you pop your Exploding Keg and you go crazy on them. So that's kind of how that's looking out for you. Alright, now I kind of want to go into stats and what the stats do. Now, some of you that are more familiar with the game are probably a little bit familiar with the stats in the game, but kind of run it down. You have 3 different stat priorities when you're playing Brew. It's going to be versatility. Now, versatility, that kind of just base and simple boosts your damage, reduces how much damage you take, and it increases the healing. Right, this is a really good stat to run on tanks. Every tank is going to have versatility as with their top priority stat beyond, like their item level and things like that. Now, there's 2 different ones, and this is pretty, depends on who you talk to and what they tell you, which one is going to take priority. I say if you're just getting into the game and you're running low keys, you're not going to be gunning for rank 1. Doesn't really matter. Just make sure you have these 3 in there. Now, Mastery enhances your stagger effect, which is good for your delayed damage. Right? Critical Strike increases your chance to deal more damage and get better self-healing. So there's that. Now, again, with the build, I would just recommend, just when it comes to talents, it's cool to kind of like play around and change them based on how you play and what you want to do. But for simplicity, I recommend you just copy the talents that I'm running. And this build is optimized for just general content, including like you're running around doing delves, you're running around world content, you're doing the raid or mythic plus. This is a very, very safe build to do. But of course, adjust the talents based on your specific needs and however you like to play the game. And now to kind of like to wrap things up, just to give you a couple little bits and tricks and tips for playing BrewMaster. It's important that you keep shuffle up. Alright, so shuffle is a passive, so it's always important to keep shuffle up, because what it does is it increases the effectiveness of stagger. And how you keep shuffle up is by attacking people with keg smash, blackout kick, and spinning current kick. So you never want to not be using it. You just want to press your buttons. You're always going to keep your shuffle up if you're just using your blackout kick regularly, just doing the rotation. If you stop pressing buttons, then you're not going to have your shuffle up, and then your stagger is going to be less effective. Beyond that, using your defensive wisely, not just wasting your big fat cooldown to Fortifying Brew, because it is 4 minutes. It's a big one. It's your oh shit button, so kind of take that with there. Now, positioning it, make sure you're kind of, the mobs are in front of you. Positioning is key because you are going to be using Breath of Fire a lot, and that's a frontal cone of AoE damage, so you want to make sure they're in front of you. And always kind of keep your eye out on your stagger. Stagger's kind of, if you look and see where my nameplate is, you can see I have it kind of centered towards my character. That way I can always keep an eye out on my stagger. You don't want your stagger to go into the red often, because then you're going to get overwhelmed. Your healer's going to get overwhelmed because you're going to start taking loads and loads and loads of damage. Like I said, you want to keep your stagger, ideally, like how I do it personally, is ideally keeping it between a quarter and halfway. And again, just like a tank thing, and just make sure you're always aware of what's going on around you in the key, in the raid or whatever, and just have really good situational awareness. And remember, Brewmaster is going to take some practice, just like any other class. Like if you threw me in a rogue right now, I wouldn't know what the hell I'm doing. But it's going to take some practice, it's going to take some patience, and you're going to get there. I don't think it's the hardest class in the game. I do think it's a very well-rounded tank, and I think everyone should play it. So there's that. Yeah, guys, so thank you so much for watching. I hope this kind of helped you out a little bit, and hope you kind of understand how Brewmaster works, and kind of helps you kind of push yourself to get your feet wet and play it, whether it's in the last few minutes of Dragonflight or in the War Within. If you found this video helpful at all, please give it a thumbs up, comment below with your thoughts or questions. Also, please don't forget to subscribe for more content. I'm going to be doing my best to upload as much as possible, and yeah, enjoy, guys. Thank you.